Hi, I'm Sally Glass and welcome to episode 178 of Art This Week. On this week's episode, we visit the Dallas Museum of Art to speak with Gabriel, Ritter, and Leigh Arnold about the exhibition Dallas Sites. Now for Art This Week.
Well, I am here with Leigh Arnold and Gabriel Ritter at the Dallas Museum of Art for the Dallas Sites-June. Would you like to tell us how this exhibition came about? I know it's been in the works for a while. How did you conceive of this?
Sure. Actually, the exhibition idea came about as a result of almost 3 years of research that I've been doing here at the DMA. And the whole project was kind of the idea behind the brainchild, I should say, of Charlie Wiley, who was a curator here. And he came up with the idea of kind of documenting this history of art in Dallas for the past 50 years before it's lost to time. So he wrote up a proposal and got a grant from the Texas Fund for Curatorial Research, and I was hired on to do the research. And over time, we kind of tried to distill all of this information that I was culling into kind of a clearer narrative, and what resulted is what you see here.
There are a lot of things that make this exhibition unique. It's archival, and we have this beautiful timeline that we're standing in front of. Normally, we think of things kind of being archival, we don't really know what to expect, but it's still very bright, and there's works of art that are here. How is this curated?
Well, you're right. Normally, archival material is in an archive, which is usually in a dark corner somewhere in the basement of a museum. And it takes a specific skill set to make that material palatable to a general audience. And we have worked with the design firm Swoon, who has done a fantastic job really making it visually appealing and also just palatable to take in all this information. There's over 200 art objects and ephemera pieces in total, all of which it's just literally a drop in the bucket compared to what we have in our archives related to this material that Leigh's collected over the past 3 years. But essentially, the way it's organized is you have the timeline, which sets it up in a more traditional fashion, which is chronological. But then that's also been broken down into 6 different neighborhoods. So it goes through Fair Park, Uptown, the Arts District, Deep Ellum, Oak Cliff, and then we also have university communities and outlying areas. And as you walk through on a kind of horizontal axis, you experience it chronologically. But then as you turn around and look into the rest of the space, it really comes alive and you see the art objects, you see more didactic material, and there's really something for everyone.
Beautiful, and I think it just gives this sense of pride to the viewers. It's really nice to trace what's happened, and even exhibitions, of course, that I wasn't even in Dallas, here to see, but just seeing that, it really gives me a sense of pride of what's happening now and what will happen in the future as well. Yeah. I know that this project is part of an ongoing vision. Do you want to speak about that?
Sure. We do want to encourage and tell people that this is the beginning of the DMA's relationship to kind of re-engage with the local arts community. And from now forward, we're hoping to bring in more collections into the DMA archives. We also have an e-publication called Dallas Sites. What did we decide on the title?
The title is Dallas Sites, a developing art scene post-war to present.
Which is a place to go to for even more information. There was only so much we could include in the exhibition, so that became a place for us to kind of really get into the nitty-gritty details of what's been happening in the Dallas arts community. That is something that we have a small preview for on the iPad in the entryway, but will be fleshed out completely by July, so it'll be available to the public on all sorts of platforms.
So in all of your research, is there anything that just stands out to you that you would want to speak about, that you just uncovered that really shocked you or surprised you or that you kind of fell in love with?
There were so many moments like that, but I would say that with the recent kind of, not rediscovery, but the recent popularity of shows on Japanese artists like Gutai at the Guggenheim and in San Francisco, it was really interesting to find out that one of the key artists of that movement, Shozo Shimamoto, came to Dallas in 1986 and did several performances. One of them was at the DMA. And to kind of have that happen in Dallas, and it was something that only a handful of people were familiar with, and read about that and then realize that this artist is an artist we have in our collection, an artist that's being collected widely around the world now and celebrated in shows now.
And
it's
in the
really exciting.
Rutowski collection
Exactly.
as well, yes, absolutely.
So that was one of the moments where I was like, wow, why has nobody ever talked about this? This is major.
Yeah. And I think that's what the exhibition really does. It's unearthing a kind of alternative narrative for the history of contemporary art in Dallas. There'll be some things in the exhibition that are familiar to people, and there'll be other objects like Shozo Shimamoto's performance in the 80s that unfortunately was overlooked or a lot of people have forgotten about. And I think that that's what this exhibition does so well. And for me, one of the interesting things, as you start to see it come together and you read the material and you look at these art objects and the moments in the 80s and 90s, there's an interesting relationship between artists and the city itself. And it's actually more of an almost counterculture, this kind of subversive expression that comes out. And people don't really think of Dallas as having this kind of edge to it, but it's always been there. You see it from the very beginning of the exhibition until the present. And we'll actually be expanding on that. The Dallas Sites Available Space exhibition, which opens July 19th, is a kind of companion to this, and it will bring in, even to a larger extent, emerging artists in the community, performance art, video, and we'll have it in our Barrel Vault and Quads gallery for a month. And I think that will really be an eye-opener after the audience has seen this historical exhibition to really see how it's been brought into the present day and how vibrant the community continues to be.
Absolutely, that's a great way to showcase some of the contemporary artists that we still have, that we of course have all around us.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we're now standing in front of the Good Bad Art Collective's piece, Satellite Dumpster, and this I think is really one of the best examples in this exhibition of this sort of subversive shack that I was mentioning a moment ago. This is a group out of Denton, just northwest of Dallas, and although they are really closely related to UNT, they actually were created because of the lack of support that they were getting at that university. And I think you see that through not only the Good Bad Art Collective, but other instances in the exhibition where the creativity was created out of this peripheral place. That's essentially the definition of an avant-garde. And it's really interesting to be able to show this very wild and kind of anti-establishment work that they're putting together, which I think was really cutting edge in the early 90s, and unfortunately the group disbanded in the early 2000s, but they're continuing to do projects here, and I think Leigh can talk about that for a second.
Sure, actually we're bringing them to the DMA on June 21st for the late night at the DMA, and it's just one of many things we have going on, but they will be performing throughout the museum, I would say. I don't want to give too much away. From what, 7 to 9?
7 to 9, they'll have a 2-hour performance that you have to see to believe.
Yeah, exactly. And then we'll also be having a panel discussion with the artist members of Toxic Shock, which was a female collaborative that was active in the 1980s. And I'll be moderating that panel. And those members were Frances Bagley, Julie Cohn, Susan Maglow, Deborah Hunter, and the late Linda Fennell, who of course won't be there, but she'll be there in spirit. We'll also be screening Engine, which was a film created by the Dallas artist Roy Fridge in 1970 or 71, I believe, from footage that he had shot during Oldenburg's performance happening in 1962 at the Dallas Museum for Contemporary Arts. And last but not least, we'll also be showing the movie Jackalope, which was filmed by Ken Harrison, and it follows artists George Green, Robert Wade, and James Searles throughout Texas for about an hour. So it's kind of a documentary that'll be screened that evening as well.
Wonderful, and so this whole exhibition becomes completely interactive and kind of comes to life
Absolutely.
When we have those events going on like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us
Thank
today.
you.
Looking
Our
forward
pleasure.
to the upcoming events.
Great,
Thanks.
thank you.
We want to thank Gabriel and Leigh for speaking with us. More information on the museum and the exhibition can be found at dma.org. That's it for Art This Week. Thanks for watching.
I still got your Polaroid. The thought of you I can't avoid. Sitting in your living room. The thoughts and pictures come back.
Aren't I bringing it? I'm bringing relaxed, enthusiastic vibes. That's what I'm doing.